Day 24. Looks like a sunset again today. What? Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Here I am just doing my little daily check-in and reflection from my quiet time, and which is super helpful for me. And if it is even helpful for one person, it's worth putting myself out here like this. So yeah, this is part of me overcoming part of my personality, is to stay quiet, stay in the corner, and then, then things like procrastination and not following through get me. They get me. So thank you for helping me help myself. And if it helps you, then even if it's just two of us here, I'm good with that. Because it's really not about me. It's about being what God hopefully wants me to be. If I can even do a little bit of that, I'll consider life a success. I'm trying to show you. Woo, man. Then, and it helps stimulate somebody else to rise up. Anyway, enough of that. I can ramble. Today, actually, this has been noodling in my head for more than a week now, but I was like, it's just something that needed to be stirred up a little bit. And so it's starting to formulate, I think, and come into something. I think it's going to take a few days to really unpack. Look at that, beautiful. I walk like sideways. Keep that in the background. Redemption. And how redemption is a process. And redemption is a really good word. And I think the Christian world has kind of taken it, and a lot of people don't use it. But it really is a word that we all should use. And we do use it kind of like in a transaction setting, when we buy a gift card or a coupon, and then we redeem the value. But to think of it like in life application terms, when we get off track, or when something maybe we need a process of which to add value back to something, or redeem it to make it its full value. And in Exodus, the Israelites were, in a sense, redeemed they were taken out of Egypt, where they were really being mistreated, abused, harmed, and their sense of self-worth and value had been stripped of them. And God had to use the process of redemption and a time in the wilderness to rebuild that. And we see God kind of get impatient with the Israelites, but he never completely loses it. He has Moses there to continually to step up and intervene and remind him even of his greater plan and of redemption, and to be patient with the people. But gosh, I can so identify with the Israelites. To live this human life, and when you've been conditioned one way, your brain just knows this way of being, and they knew how to be slaves, even though they didn't like it and there were negative parts of it. They knew what to expect from it. They knew how to do it. They knew, and there were some benefits that even came along with it that they would occasionally remember and yearn for again, and even to the point of wishing to go back into slavery to get, the food and shelter and some of their basic needs that they had to, at times, not see a way and not have those comforts in the wilderness. But the wilderness, I feel like I'm in that right now, which is probably why it's stirring some things. And I think we can kind of metaphorically go through this multiple times in our lives. It's not a one and done process for most of us, because again, we're human. But I think I've shared with you all, I was really feeling low energy, just not good, and I felt sort of enslaved to a daily wine habit. Like, oh, I just looked forward to it. I thought I enjoyed it. It brought me pleasure. It brought me comfort. It brought me relaxation. You know, just that 2 to 3 glasses of wine seems harmless. It's not only socially acceptable, but it's even encouraged. Like, you can't go anywhere without, you know, there's even a term for it now, even with women, like the mommy wine culture. Mommy needs her sippy cup. So I thought I was doing what was like, I was supposed to do. Like, this is what you do when you're an adult. And I'll show you, take a break. Anyway, so kind of waking up to that and knowing that this was not helpful, and knowing that if I could just survive the wilderness period, there was maybe a promised land that I could get to where I just wouldn't want wine anymore. It was not important to me. I didn't want it, you know, need it, any of the things. And that is a process to go through. It's not easy. There are days when you're like, no. You know, I watch my husband enjoy his drink. And I meant to air quote, enjoy. And right next to me on a daily basis, and you know, and friends and family. And like, man, why am I doing this to myself? I could go over there and do this, and having to remind myself of what my promised land was, and that it was worth kind of wandering around in this wilderness going, what the, you know, while my brain learned a new way to be. You have to kind of, in order to learn a new way to be, you've got to strip out the old. You also have to be willing to be totally like naked, afraid. I don't mean in a literal sense, but figuratively. Like, make friends with uncertainty, or at least be able to ride those waves of fear and doubt and like, is this worth it? What am I doing? You know, all of the things. And then having now been through that with one major area of being sort of enslaved in my life to a habit, I still have a few more that I want to kind of stop messing around with. I feel like I've kind of left, or I'm deciding to be freed, and knowing how hard that wilderness is. Here, look, you guys want to see a rabbit? Here's a little rabbit. Huh. And then am I willing to like go through this again? It's exhausting. It's exhausting to even think about. But that's sort of where I am, and going, you know what? It's exhausting to sit here and spin on this merry-go-round of do I, don't I? Do I really want it? Yeah, I do. And then just hitting the eject button and trying to go back, and knowing that that's not where you're, like, it's this limbo place of learning. And I have done a lot of things. So I want to give myself credit for that. I think the Israelites need to be given a lot of credit. And Moses, he's sort of like the higher brain, and the Israelites are like the lower brain from a scientific standpoint, if you want to kind of get even more metaphorical. Moses keeps reminding them, no, stick with it, we got to do it. And they're like, oh, but this is just too hard, I can't. And eventually the higher brain hopefully will win out, and you can finally start to cross into the promised land. And or even just driving that stake in the ground, or that, you know, his staff, like saying, no, we're going to have a split rock moment and go through the Red Sea, like we are going. And just knowing, for the first part of me, it was kind of, because it is step by step, and I felt like the Israelites in the first round, that it was like, oh, you know, there's a little bit of ignorance or bliss in ignorance too, of like really being completely in the wilderness. Now to willingly head into the wilderness. But, you know, I also know that there is a way out, and it will be hard, but it's okay. I can do it. So there's I don't know, different aspects to all the different ways of looking at it. But anyway, redemption is a process. It's not a one and done. It's not just a simple, hey, I'm ready to be redeemed now. Like, I'm redeemed. It's a process that you have to go through and earn back and learn a new way, in order to, yeah, you know, that old saying, nothing changes unless something changes. And yet, as humans, we're like, but I don't want to. That's hard. It's too hard. I don't want to change. There's too much, like, what if? And without certainty, our brain will default to stay even in a bad place with bad consequences, because it knows how to play that game. It knows how to win, you know, it knows what to do there. It's not a risk from the sense of it being like uncertain, even though it's eventually leading to death. And for me, having watched multiple people in my family actually die from alcohol consumption, but I was still able to say, well, but I'm not drinking that much, like that, you know, make myself different. But it wasn't helping me live. That I was asking the wrong questions, rather than saying, well, how is it so bad? Flip it around. And what have you got to lose? Is it helping you? Is it helping you live? Is it helping you run your race of life? And shedding things that don't help you run, rather than trying to carry all these heavy loads, and being willing to go through that redeeming process of change, through the wilderness, through the unknown, through all of the ways that your mind will try to get you to give up and say that it's too hard, and just sticking with it, because you know that there is that promise, the promised land on the other side of it. So we'll keep unpacking that. That's probably enough for today, for a Monday. We're going to go deep this week. And I've got some surprise for you later this week with some different views, literally. I'm traveling. All right, bye. Happy Monday. Go make it a great day, great week.